Hello champions and future champions, hello Chessmood family. GM Gabuzyan is here with you and we're beginning with our daily lesson. On the board we're seeing an interesting middle game position. White is playing ex-world champion Capablanca. D4 pawn is weakened for the black side, and now I will offer you to pause the video and think what are you going to play here as white. If you tried to take this pawn with the rook e8, rook takes c8, rook takes, and after queen takes, knight takes d4, this line is not working out, since now black has a beautiful knight e5 move. The thing is, if we go with our queen, let's say somewhere to e4, black can take on d4, and after it takes, play knight f3 check, winning the queen. Otherwise, if after knight e5, white now is trying to go queen b5, in order to attack black queen and prevent bishop takes d4 move. Now there is another issue. After queen takes b5, knight takes, knight f3 check is winning the bishop on d2. So for this reason at the beginning, white cannot immediately win the pawn on d4. And now let's for a second take a look at the title of today's daily lesson. Exchanging the defender and exchanging opponent's bad piece. Bishop on b6 is pretty much limited by this d4 pawn. But the thing is, once white is playing bishop a5, as it happened in the game, pawn is becoming weaker. This bad piece is a good defender, and sometimes we need to take smart decisions during the chess game and exchange opponent's bad pieces. The reason is, these pieces are having some very low value, but once they are not existing on the board anymore, sometimes opponent is having some more difficulties. So when you are seeing a bad piece, it doesn't mean you are not going to exchange it. After bishop a5 move, now white has a threat to take on b6, and later on d4 will be hanging. If black is taking on a5, we are taking back. Now the thing is, this queen is limited because it's protecting the rook on e8, so black can try rook takes e4, but white is getting a nice advantage after queen takes e4. The thing is that after takes, now the pawn on b7 is hanging at the same time. If black goes b6, there will be knight c6 move. As well, if black now is trying to go rook to d7, the 8th rank is gonna be weakened. White can try to play rook e8 check, and after knight f8 to go rook b8, weakening these pawns, getting knight to c6, and having a great advantage. For this reason, after bishop a5, black is not taking in the game. Black played rook takes e4. White has a choice of taking with the rook and the queen, which is almost the same. In the game it has happened queen takes e4. In the game black here played knight f8 move. To this one we'll come back a little later, as black just got a very passive position. Here if black is trying to play queen takes e4 and rook takes, and now getting rid of this weakened pawn with d3 move, you can pause the video and think how to play here for white. Another time, white is going to use the weakness of the 8th rank. So now we're taking, after rook takes d3, now giving a check. Knight f8 is the only move, and after bishop takes b6, pawn takes, going rook to b8. Black has doubled pawns here, and they are attacked by our rook. Due to active pieces and bad pawn structure for black, white has an advantage here again. So, as I mentioned, after queen e4 move, black here played knight f8, but it's very similar to the previous line, due to the huge activity of white rook. After queen takes, pawn takes and rook e7, white has a great position. Rook on the 7th rank is making pressure on the pawns. As well, black pieces are passive. In the game, this bishop didn't get exchanged, but the whole idea with exchanging allowed white to get huge activity. Let's now go ahead to see our next example. In this position, it's white to move. White has a better control over the open e-file since the rooks are doubled. As well, let me mention that white bishop is much stronger than the bishop on c6, which is almost a continuation of this pawn chain. Now it's white turn, as I mentioned, and you can pause the video and think, what would you play here for white? Even though bishop on c6 is almost a pawn, white here is playing bishop b5. This was played by the world champion Vladimir Kramnik. Strong understanding of chess allows to figure out that this bishop, even though it's very limited, is protecting pawn weaknesses. Once it's gonna be exchanged, pawn on a4, or if black is deciding to take, pawn on d5, are gonna be very much weakened. And this is overweighting bad position of black bishop. So now we're transforming our type of advantage. In the game it has happened. Rook takes e3 and knight takes e3. Now knight is coming to e3 square, attacking this pawn. As well, sometimes we'll be able to go to g4 and try to bother black king. Black has several moves here. If trying to go queen a7, once again you can pause the video and think what to play here. Now white can take the pawn on d5. The thing is that after bishop takes d5, knight on d7 is hanging, so we can take it. After knight e3, black can try to play knight b6, not taking on b5. But now, since the knight is going farther from the king side, we are going knight g4, as well using the fact that f6 square is no longer under control. So this knight will be very annoying here. After king g7, white can play bishop takes, pawn takes and queen e7. Queen f6 can be a threat, something like queen h4. Position is dangerous for black. And after knight e3, if black is deciding to take on b5, we're simply taking back and these pawns are very much weakened. So black is not having good options. After knight e3, in the game black tried to play knight f6, slightly protecting the pawn on d5 and keeping knight close to the king. But white is capturing this time the pawn on a4, and after takes and takes, white is clearly pawn up. So another time we have seen that exchanging the bad piece of opponent can be a very smart idea. Bishop on c6 was protecting black's pawn chain. Let's go ahead to see our next position. In this position, it's black to move, and another time we're going to see a game of world champion. This time by black is playing Alekhine. So, you can pause the video and think, what would you play here as black? I didn't mention that the pawn on b3, oh I'm sorry, it's a bishop. There is a bishop on b3. So now black is playing bishop a4 and exchanging this pawn. The thing is that even though bishop is limited, it's again protecting the pawn chain. We have seen it several times. And after bishop takes, as it happened in the game, and rook takes a4, black is getting two comfortable pawn weaknesses for opponent, which can be attacked in future. Slowly black increased the pressure in the game and eventually won. Let me mention that after bishop a4 move as black, taking was a huge mistake for the white side. White was supposed to go king c3. What is the difference now? For example, if black here takes and white takes back, white is only getting one pawn weakness, which will be way easier to protect than two pawns. And if black is not taking after king c3, trying to increase the pressure, going rook to b8, white is still protecting this spot, going for rook b2 move. And will be getting much higher chances to survive. Let me also mention that previously, after rook db8, rook d6 is not working out for white, as after takes, pawn takes and rook takes b3, black rooks are going to be much stronger. King is going to be finding safety on f6, meanwhile white king will be all the time under the checks. And also now black is winning few pawns. After king c2, rook b2 check, king c1, and rook takes g2. So protecting the bishop on b3 square after bishop a4 move was the best defense for the white side. Let's now go ahead to get your homework for this topic, guys. Here it's white to move, and you can try to implement your knowledge in the comments section below. You can share your thoughts and ideas. Gabuzyan was here with you. Thank you for your subscriptions, likes, and sharing this video with your friends. We appreciate it a lot. See you next time during our next daily lessons.